Hi, I'm Brad with Juliano's Pools. Today I'm going to go over a few things. It's going to be more of a broad spectrum, all the things that you have to know about your pool, quick little videos. In this video we're going to have links that show you more in-depth videos on, for example, cleaning your filter, cleaning your pool with the vacuum and hose and all that. We'll get into a couple things that you'll run into. First, we'll start with the circulation of your pool. All these returns in your pool are what introduce the water back into the pool. They're all directional. You can reach inside the pool here and kind of point them in the direction you want. Whatever way they point, it'll just send the water that way. Your whole pool moves in a big circle. You have three ways that the water gets pulled into your pump. You have one skimmer here, one skimmer down there, then there's two drains in the floor of the deep end. Those are the three ways that your pool brings water into the pump. Once it all goes into the pump, it gets filtered, heated, and chlorinated, then comes back through these four return lines. So you got the three intake lines and four return lines in your pool. And it all moves in a big circle. In through these, out through those. And everything that happens is going on back there. Most of the maintenance and everything is going to be back there, while you are more focused on chemicals and that sort over here. First thing to maintaining your pool is you want to stay on top of your skimmers. Every day, every other day, you're going to want to come out here, check your skimmer basket. This is something you may run into. Sometimes these skimmer doors, they fall out. They just clip back in by pressing in these two little tabs right here. Just pull one of those tabs in, push it down in there. You gotta line it up with the two holes up front. Once it's in place, that door will just float back and forth like it's supposed to. So every day you'll want to just come out here, empty out your leaves, anything that gets caught up inside there, and use a hose to get it a little bit perfect, and just put it right back inside. Your pool may be a little different. Most pools have two skimmers. Some of them only have one, depending on the size of the pool. When vacuuming the pool, this is what you're going to go off of. In our other video, it goes in depth on how to fill up the hose and how to set up the hose, but you'll hook it right into this skimmer and be able to vacuum the pool. So back here is where we put all the pool equipment. This is where all the technical stuff is going to be happening, all the programming, all your LED light controls and all that stuff. When back here, most of them are going to look like this. We're going to have a System 3 filter, Hayward pump, and most of the manifolds will look like this, unless you have a spillover spa or something a little bit different. And we label everything, so you'll see here that you have your two skimmers and then your main drain. Those are the lines that are bringing in water. When vacuuming the pool or doing anything to create more suction where you want more power, you use these valves right here. So say we were vacuuming off the deep end or shallow end skimmer, we would come over here and close the deep end skimmer using this ball valve here. And all these valves do is put a door over that pipe, preventing water from coming through here. And the only time you need to move any of these is when you're vacuuming the pool or you're opening up the pump or filter to clean it or do any sort of maintenance on it. When the pool is running in normal operation, all these valves should be vertical and letting water through them. Your pool is just a big circle, brings in water through these three lines. Comes in the pump, gets filtered, gets pumped through here, and on all of our new pools, we plumb in a way to drain water. And simply, you would hook up a garden hose to this spigot on top here, open that up, and water will start pouring out. As long as the pump is running, that'll spray out water if you open it. Inside here, there's a pump basket, and as you can see, it fills up with grass, leaves, debris. You want to check that probably once a week, maybe a little bit more often. Just make sure that's always clean. To do that, you would turn off your pump using the stop resume button on the back, and that'll turn off your pump. And whenever I do this, it's very helpful to close your main drain using this three-way valve on top. You turn it so the off word is on that main drain. Put the door over it. And you'll also want to do the same with our ball valves and just close both of those. And And the reason I do this is it traps the water in these pipes. Because when we open up this lid, all that water is going to want to go back into the ground with gravity, and it'll make it a lot harder for us to start up the pump when we're ready to do so. So to clean this out, you give the lid a couple hits, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Pull this off, tap it out on a rock, and hose it out, rinse it out. A bucket's pretty helpful. And it'll get pretty clean. Doesn't need to be perfect, but you just want, when you put it back in, you want to line this up with the pipe so it sits in there properly. There's no way to put it in any other way. It won't go in if you have it not lined up. It's got to be lined up. It'll drop into place. You'll see how it sinks down below the rim, and you can put your lid back on. And you'll see how there's not much water left inside there. That's why your pump struggles to prime back up, because it's trying to prime off of a dry barrel. So by closing these valves, it gives the pump access to water immediately. One other thing that is very helpful, if you cannot get it to prime, is grabbing a 5-gallon bucket of water and simply just pouring some inside the pump and filling it up. You just fill it up till it's to the top, and you can put your lid back on and close it. Once you have all that put back together, you can go ahead and fire up your pump. Before we turn it on, I'd like to show you one thing. On your system, we plumb in what we call check valves, and it's really just a door inside this little window right here. If you look very closely, you can kind of see a red door right there. Right now it's flapped all the way down. That means there's no water being pushed through there. When we turn this pump back on, that door is going to come up almost all the way. And that's a sign that you have good water flow going through your pump and your system. And as that starts to go down, it means you're having less water flow. It could be a few things. Your filter could be getting dirty. Maybe the RPMs are lower than they once were. But really that check valve should be open about 50% as long as the pump is running all the time. So once we're ready to fire it back up, we're going to want to open up our valves. That way the pump has fresh water right away. Once that's all opened up, you can go ahead and press start resume on the pump. And you'll see this check valve open up while that fills up with water. Right now the check valve is open all the way. Right now your pump is in priming mode. It's going to run at max RPMs, which is 3,450. It'll run at that for 8 minutes. After 8 minutes, it'll go back down into the running speed that we put into the schedule. This air inside here will take a few minutes to get itself out. The reason it gets trapped inside there is because the pipe on the pump is actually a few inches lower than this air bubble up here. So over the next 15-30 minutes, that will gradually work itself out. And as it does, it'll actually build up inside your filter up top here, and you'll want to bleed the air out of here using this knob on top. So there's not much air in there right now, so water came out immediately. That's a good sign. You can close it back up. And if you want another view at this check valve, you'll really see how it works when I turn it off right now. So by pressing stop resume, that'll turn off the pump, and you can see how that check valve slowly closes. That's the difference between open and closed. So after 20 minutes after priming the pump, you can see here that it worked out all the bubbles. A lot of customers will call and say, I don't have any water inside my pump, but the truth is this is 100% filled with water. There's not a single air bubble inside there. So when you see it looking like that, it's because there's no air in there and it's 100% filled with water. And another way of knowing that it's that way is if this check valve is wide open, you know that water is going through your system. After it goes through your pump, it'll come through that check valve and into your filter. Your filter should be cleaned once a month, and to clean it, you take off these 7 clamps. This whole top piece comes off, you drain out the filter, and you pull it apart, clean it. We have a very in-depth video on that will have a link or some way for you to see that very easily. It's very simple to follow after this manifold here. It's just one line. Comes in through here, goes into your filter, then out through this line, and it just follows that line all the way back into your heater. It just comes down, goes down into the ground, comes up into here, and then goes back down into here. We plumb in another check valve just to show that you still have good flow going out throughout your system. So comes in through this line, goes down into this one, into your heater, gets moved around in your heater, heated, and then sent back into this line. This line then proceeds underground and comes up into your return manifold. And this is all the water in the pool. All your water that's been heated, chlorinated, filtered, it's all coming back through this line and into your return manifold, which is set up the same exact way as your intake manifold. Using this 3-way valve, you can close the stairs. If you put the word off on stairs, it puts a door over that pipe, doesn't allow water through those stair returns. Then you can open it up and those stair returns are active again. Same with these ball valves. You close one, it puts a door over that pipe, allowing water to only these 2 pipes. The only time you really need to do that is if you had a bench in your pool or something like that and you wanted to get like a massage. Really all this does is it just forces more water to different returns. A lot of customers, they'll ask, we're trying to heat our pool at night, we can't get it to stay warm. The only time this heater will run, any heater on a pool will run, is when that pump is running. So in order to heat your pool 24/7, you need to set your pool pump to run 24/7 as well. This here is your pump, and this is the main control board of your whole pool. This is how you set your schedules, how you control your speed of the RPM of the pump, and all the important things that your pump is doing. And that is all inside of this box right here. To get into your timers menu, you would press menu, it'll bring you to this screen. You press it again, and it'll say timers menu. You can kind of read along where it says press this right arrow to enter. So I'm going to press the right arrow, and it says to make any changes, use the plus and minus sign, and to navigate, use this right arrows, the right and left arrow. So this is our first timer here. I want to change this timer. Say I wanted it to run 24/7. So that our heater could run 24/7. I would go in here by pressing this plus sign. It'll say timer 1. You can change the name of the timer. We always keep it as timer 1 so nobody gets confused if we have to come out and service your pool. Once you have your timer set, you can use this arrow to move on to your next part, and that would be your RPMs. You can adjust your RPMs by using the plus and minus right here. It goes in intervals of 25. So if we wanted to set it to 2,500 RPMs, maybe it was a little bit too loud, water's moving too much, you can turn it down, vice versa. If you wanted to turn it up, you press the plus sign, and that'll turn it up to whatever you'd like. Say we want it to be at 3,000. We'll set it to 3,000. This is the start time, 7 a.m. Change that, again, just the plus and minus. Say we want it to start at 8, but we want it to run 24/7. What you have to do is you change this one all the way to 7:45 a.m. And this is very important right here. When you do set a schedule for 24/7, you have to leave a 15-minute window for the pump to turn off. Take a minute, chill out, and then turn back on. If it sets for 8 a.m. to 8 a.m., it'll get confused at 8 a.m. and it'll just stay right off. So once you have that new schedule set, it's all set, 3,000 RPMs, 8 a.m. to 7:45 a.m. You come over here, always choose 7 days a week. You can change it 5 days a week, Sunday, Monday, but we like to keep it at 7 days a week. To save your changes, you would move all the way through all your timers, press the menu button, and if you wanted to save your changes, you'd use the plus sign, and that'll save your changes. This is the Frog Mineral Reservoir Chlorinator. We also sell the New Water Cycler Pack. You may have that one on your system. It's the exact same thing, whether it's got the frog pack in it or the cycler pack. To open it up, the best way to do it is line up your wrench so that when you hit it, it goes away from your hoses and it doesn't break anything. And I always take my feet and put them on either side of these lines right here. That way it kind of just keeps it secure on the pad and nothing has a chance to break. And once you have everything set, you just want to hit it right here, and it's harder to kind of just twist it right off. You kind of want to give it that little hit because it kind of gets sealed up. You just give it a little hit and that will come right off. Once you give it that hit, it'll loosen up and you can just simply take it off by hand. And then a lot of problems you may run into is this O-ring falls out, maybe drops inside there, and you put it back together, it starts leaking. It will leak every single time if this O-ring is not in the right place. So you always want to make sure that that's in there. Then you can pull this out, check it, make sure you have chlorine tabs inside there. Your mineral reservoir is good for the entire season, so you never really have to pull that out of there. So you can put it all back together, just make sure you don't have any leaves or anything on there, and it'll slide right back into place. When you put this on, just make sure you have your O-ring in place and just start threading it on. Sometimes it'll go cross-threaded, you just keep twisting it until it starts dropping on. Once you have it tight, you kind of just hand tighten it. You don't want to use the wrench, you don't want to use this tool to tighten it because sometimes it's too tight and it's really hard to get off. So just hand tighten, put your wrench back on, then you can start your system back up. This is very chlorinated water inside here. That's why we put it all after your pump, filter, and heater. It's only on these lines, so none of the important equipment is getting high chlorine. These tend to dry out pretty frequently, so you might want to be kind of careful. When you bleed the air, just be gentle with it. Let the water come out. When you close it up, don't over tighten it because you could snap that right off, and then the threads get stuck inside there. All these components have gaskets on here. They all have an O-ring, and that's what's making that nice watertight seal. So it's never necessary to over tighten any of this stuff. Once water comes out, you close it back up. So for the LED lights, it's typically a controller connected to all your other stuff right on this electrical box right here. To turn them on, you open up your screen. There's a little clip on the side here. Lift up on that. That'll give you access to the controls. To turn them on, you'll hold down this center button right here for 3 seconds. Anytime you see these lights going in a rotating circle, don't press it. It's calibrating, it's trying to think on what it's supposed to be doing. So just wait for those to stop, and then you can go ahead and operate your lights. So this is the show they're running. It shows you the color on top here, what the show looks like. And then this light may be hard to see, but right now it's lit up. And as you turn this dial, that light moves. So you'll see how it goes to blue, that light turns to blue. Say we wanted to go to green. We go over to green, and you tap the center button 1 time. This light will continue to move until it finds the color it's supposed to be on, and it'll stay on that color. That button here is on the bottom left. This is your syncing button. When the lights are not synced, they're showing different colors, you hold that down for 5 seconds and it'll sync them back together. This button here is a back button. This allows you to get out of where you're going. Maybe if you were setting a schedule, you could press this button to cancel that, and it'll get you back to like the home base, allowing you to adjust the colors and stuff like that. Here in the top left corner is a way to make custom light shows. Say you run them manually and you wanted to turn your lights off, you just hold in that center button for 3 to 5 seconds again, and the lights will turn off. If it ever feels like it's going on for 2-3 minutes, it's not abnormal for it to take a while. Don't start button smashing. If it's not working, just let it go through its sequence. Wait till all the lights are off before you start pressing buttons again. When we are building your pool and installing them, we run a sucker line. If you have groundwater, we run this sucker line And this just goes straight down into the ground, underneath your pool, underneath the liner, underneath the Mickey, all of it. And this is for when we have to do a liner replacement or any sort of maintenance on the liner. We can actually hook up a pump and suck the groundwater out from underneath the pool. That way we can do what we have to do without worrying about water coming back up underneath us. So this is strictly for maintenance when we do liners or any sort of work on the pool itself. This just stays like this. There's nothing that you have to do with it. The only time this gets used is when we're doing a liner replacement, and it should always be capped off, just how it is. We're gonna go over how to add chemicals into your pool. There's several different chemicals that go into your pool. There's different ways to add them. First way is pouring it directly into the water. There's two chemicals that you can do that with, and that would be alkalinity and liquid shock. With those two chemicals, you can dump them directly into the pool. Literally just take your gallon of shock, dump it right into the water. The only thing you have to keep in mind when adding any chemical to your pool is that that pump is running. You want water to be circulating through your pump when you add any sort of chemicals. That way it doesn't get stuck on a certain spot of the liner or anywhere in the pipes, and it can cause damage. So alkalinity, which is a powder, a very fine powder, can just get thrown right into the pool, and it'll all dissolve as it drops into the water and sinks to the floor. Liquid shock can get poured right into the pool, preferably the shallow end, because shock is a little bit heavier than water. So as it sinks into the pool, it'll all work itself across the pool and into the deep end, where it can get filtered in and reintroduced. After you have those two chemicals, we move on to our pH increase, which is a little bit more granular. You can actually see like it's kind of like a wood chips a little bit. So that is something that you want to pour into a 5-gallon bucket of water. And basically, you would just take your chemical, take the lid off, dump it right into the water, and let it dissolve for a few minutes. You can grab a pole or something and just stir it around, get it all dissolved. And once it's all dissolved, really you'll just pick up your skimmer lead. Always take your basket out. That way it can go into the pool, into the pump, and get circulated inside there. So you'd have your dissolved chemicals inside your bucket, and you would just slowly pour it right down your skimmer. Just right into your skimmer like that. And again, you always want your pool running. Because if you ever pour chemicals down your skimmer while it's not running, they'll just sit at the bottom, and a lot of chemicals, they'll actually dissolve a little bit and become like a rock. It'll actually turn into like concrete. And we've had customers call and say, oh yeah, I clogged up my skimmer because I poured stabilizer down there. So it's always very important to dissolve it. Dissolve it in a bucket of water, pour it down the skimmer. So you want to do that with pH, you want to do that with stabilizer, you want to do that with calcium. And most importantly, do that with calcium. Use calcium if you pour a lot into your pool, which sometimes it requires 50, 80 pounds of calcium. If you're pouring a lot of calcium into your pool, it can actually get clogged in the line and melt the line, because when calcium comes in contact with water, it has a chemical reaction and gets very hot. So anytime you add any sort of chemical that has like a granular shape to it, even just like small, just like the tip of a pen or something like that, you want to dissolve it in water. That way it doesn't get stuck somewhere in your lines and cause damage to your pool or your liner. If you dumped stabilizer directly into your pool and it fell onto your liner, it would actually melt a hole right through your liner or bleach out that part of the liner. Anytime there's any sort of chemical that looks like it could sink to the bottom of the pool and sit on the liner, you want to dissolve it in water and pour it down the skimmer to prevent any damage to your pool liner.